that has never been in contact with any particular law enforcement court system. And from what I can see and what I hear out here from a lot of my Black male, and I'm sure it's common knowledge, is that because they are unfamiliar with the court system, they don't know, number one.
Traveler. Okay.
All right, folks, buckle up, because today we've got ourselves another Sovereign Citizen special. But this one comes with a twist. Instead of standing alone shouting about rights and contracts, this guy actually hired an attorney. Progress, right? Don't get too excited, though, because he's still knee-deep in the Sovereign Citizen swamp. Here's the setup. Police in Harris County, Texas, spot a car rolling around with a license plate that doesn't have numbers, doesn't have letters, doesn't even pretend to be legal. Nope. This plate simply reads, Traveler. That's it. One word. Like he bought it off Etsy. Naturally, police pull him over. And right on cue, our guy refused.
She and I have already discussed it on this case, and we just both want you to hear the PC, if we can, Judge.
Okay.
And then on the bond reinstatement as well, Judge. Right.
So officers initiated a traffic stop in Harris County, Texas for a vehicle having a fictitious plate bearing the word traveler on it. During the stop, the defendant refused to provide.
Traveler. Okay.
During the stop, the defendant refused to provide ID or insurance information, stating, "I do not consent to this." Officer attempted to remove the defendant from the vehicle, and defendant actively resisted by pulling his arm away from deputies until he was detained.
Okay. Tell me what.
So we looked at, I'm sorry, Madam Prosecutor, the interference with duties of public servant, Your Honor. Even if my client is failing to give them that, then it is an arrestable offense. But in this situation, it is, Judge. However, in this particular situation, he didn't interfere with anything in terms of his own arrest. I can, if it was a resisting or something to that effect, I can.
They're just trying to get him out of the car.
I don't disagree.
It's classic sovereign case where got the license plate, think that traveling by right is what I think how they term it.
In this situation, Judge, and the reason I'm employing upon the court is, even from what Madam Prosecutor has seen on the video, they're pulling and tugging at his arm, which put my client in some fear. It was more than one officer. It was pretty.
But he still has a duty. If they're asking you to come out, they can lawfully do that. And there are videos, and go on YouTube, right? There are hundreds of videos where officers will literally destroy your car to get you out. When you get into a pissing match with a person who has the power of arrest, who's going to win, Mr. Daly?
We don't disagree, Your Honor.
Right. You know what I mean? That's real life.
We don't disagree, Your Honor. I think under the circumstances of what actually happened, it was not Mr. Daly's position to resist or to interfere. That was not. He was concerned for his safety at that point. And actually, I don't know, did you hear that on the video? Right. And so in reviewing the video, it was pretty quick, pretty brash. They didn't give him an opportunity to respond per the prosecutor. In this situation, it wasn't as if he was intentionally.
Remember, this is just a mere probable cause.
Yes,
so
I agree.
They ask you to come out of the car one time. Yeah, it's really that's. So, I think that there's enough probable cause to go forward now. The problem is, Mr. Daly, is that we revoke your bond. Your bond is set at 2501, and you've continually failed to appear. So, the case and the way that you've treated us, it shows me that you just refuse to accept authority. How are we supposed to deal with that? How do we deal with that, Timberland?
Your Honor, the only reason I bring to your attention is I asked the court to take into consideration, we have a Black male works every day who, and I hate to put that on the court, but I do in this particular climate, that has never been in contact with any particular law enforcement court system. And from what I can see and what I hear out here from a lot of my Black male, and I'm sure it's common knowledge, is that because they are unfamiliar with the court system, they don't know, number one. Number two, when they do come in contact with police, and my mother is assistant chief of police. So I can understand, even when I was younger, I was taught that there are certain things that you have to do with when a police officer even stop you on a speeding ticket. What we don't know is whenever these officers come up, when you're somebody who don't have the privilege of having a police officer as a parent, or who isn't familiar and is being raised in this particular climate and seeing what they see on TV and seeing what they hear and everything that has occurred, you don't know what the proper steps are. I was trained from when I was grown up what you do. I'm not saying that what he did was right or wrong. I'm not saying that how he reacted to this particular court, it is wrong. However, I'm employing upon the court to ask the court to take into a little bit of consideration, number one, from his perspective.
Chooses to hand over his license or insurance. Instead, he hits them with the old sovereign classic, "I do not consent." Yeah, because that's worked for all the hundreds of YouTube clips of sovereigns being dragged out of their cars, right? Well, surprise, surprise. Officers order him out. He resists. They grab his arm. He pulls back, and the whole thing turns into a mess until they finally get him cuffed. Now he's in court, facing the judge, and here's where it gets weird. His attorney, and I'm not exaggerating here, goes all in, smothering him like a helicopter parent defending their kid in kindergarten. She tries to argue that he didn't really resist. No, he was just concerned for his safety. She even claims the officers pulled him out too quickly, that they didn't give him enough time to respond. Lady, he had a plate that said traveler. He refused to identify himself. He literally resisted. How much more time did he need? But it doesn't stop there. Oh no, because then she goes straight for the race card. She tells the court that her client is a young black man who's never dealt with the justice system, so he just didn't know how to act when the police pulled him over. She even mentions that her own mother is a police chief, and that's why she knows better than most what people should do during a traffic stop. Now, don't get me wrong. No one's denying there are tensions between police and communities.
All defendants, can't just say this, but I do see that, from what I've known from this particular case and now in talking to him, I do believe that there is a sense of sometimes they just don't know. Sometimes they just don't. So I'm asking to reinstate his PR bond. I am now on the case. What you know about me, I'm a tight attorney. I run a tight ship. So, and by which of way I believe I can reach him and getting him to court and resolving this matter, which is what I talked to the prosecutor about when you were on break. It's like, let's just resolve this. Let's take care of this.
I'll buy it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
I'm not going to do this again, though. I promise you. I don't care whoever you have. If you flake on us again, that's 3 times. It's out. I'm not going to do it again. Do you understand, Mr. Daly? I mean, when you come to court, good things happen. When you don't show up and you continually do it, you can't expect good things to happen. Now, do you have a Texas driver's license?
Not right now.
You're not allowed to drive.
Right.
You have a bond condition and you've signed an affidavit with me today promising you're not going to drive. I don't care how you term it. Driving, traveling, however you're going to word it, whatever you do not get into the driver's seat of an automobile, a motorcycle, anything with a combustible engine where you can get on the road unless you have approval from us. Do you understand? I don't care that you have to work. I don't care if you have to go to church. I don't care if you're going to a funeral. I don't care if you're going to wherever it may be. Do not drive. Do you understand? Heed this warning. You're not going to get another one. Okay, Timberly, I'll reinstate the bond.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I'll talk to her. We were going to try to talk to Chief, but it's pretty busy today.
I think the case is only 3 months old,
Yes,
so you've got time. You can do whatever you want.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge.
Because you have a lawyer, I will waive your appearance. You don't have to waste your time coming to court now, but you must stay in touch with her and she'll tell you when you got to come back to court. If she comes back and tells me she can't get a hold of you because you're playing games or you've gone AWOL or whatnot, or you get arrested for something else, all bets off. We good? I'm not asking for much, man. Really. And for future reference, when you get into a pissing match with someone with the power of arrest, you are nearly always going to lose. It's just the way it works. And as a young Black man in today's society, you got to be extra special careful because things can go really wrong really quick. And there's evidence of that over and over and over.
That's real. But dragging that into this, over a guy with a fake traveler plate who flat out refused to follow simple lawful instructions, that's not just reaching, that's skydiving without a parachute. And the judge, he's sitting there, listening, but you can tell he's not buying into it. He reminds the courtroom that when an officer tells you to step out of a car, you don't get to argue, you don't get to bargain. You comply. Because otherwise, yeah, your window's getting smashed and you're getting yanked out. Happens. All the time. That's not oppression. That's reality. At this point, the whole thing feels less like a legal defense and more like a mom making excuses for her kid cutting class. Oh, he didn't mean it, Judge. He just didn't know better. Give me a break. So after all the excuses, all the race card pulling, and all the smothering from his attorney, Judge Flair finally steps in and lays it out plain and simple. He basically tells this guy, look, you've skipped court, you've resisted arrest, and you're out here pretending license plates are optional. You don't get to just ignore authority and expect me to keep giving you breaks. And yet, against all odds, the judge gives him one last chance. He reinstates the bond, but not without making it crystal clear. The warning couldn't have been harsher. If you miss court again, if you get caught driving again, if you pull any more sovereign nonsense, you're done. No more breaks. Then comes my favorite part. The judge tells him flat out, I don't care if you call it driving or traveling. I don't care if you're going to work, church, or even a funeral. You are not getting behind the wheel of anything with an engine. Period. He even makes the guy sign an affidavit swearing he won't drive until the court says otherwise. Now think about that for a second. This grown man had to sit in front of a judge and promise, in writing, not to travel. You'd think that level of embarrassment would snap someone back to reality. But if we've learned anything from sovereign citizens, it's that embarrassment doesn't stop the delusion. And here's where I've got to be honest with you. I'm disappointed. Because as much as the judge laid down a warning, he still gave this guy a lifeline. A slap on the wrist, really. This is someone who skipped court, resisted police, and made a mockery of the system with a license plate that looked like it was drawn in Microsoft Paint. In most places, that behavior earns you a stack of new charges, and maybe even jail time. Instead, he walks out with his bond back and a lecture. Lucky doesn't even begin to describe it. But the real head-scratcher here wasn't the defendant. It was his attorney. I mean, what on earth was she doing? She spent the entire hearing smothering him, making excuses, and even pulling the race. Card like that was going to erase the fact that he resisted police with a fake plate. It felt less like a lawyer defending her client, and more like a mom trying to talk a teacher out of giving her son detention. And the sad part is, none of it worked. The judge didn't buy it, the probable cause stood, and her client still walked away looking like a fool. Honestly, the only thing she accomplished was making the whole courtroom raise their eyebrows. So what do you think? Was the judge too soft here? Should he have dropped the hammer harder on this so-called traveler? And seriously, have you ever seen an attorney act this strange in court? Because to me, this was one of the weirdest defenses I've ever witnessed.